Infinity Ward has done a pretty solid job at balancing their latest Call of Duty game. While there are some guns that need buffs, most of the guns in Modern Warfare 2, they're viable. They are for multiplayer, but the same can't quite be said about Warzone. Now, it may be a tad early to make this big judgment call, but certain weapons in the new Battle Royale experience have already earned themselves a bad reputation with the community for being extremely underwhelming. And today, we are going to put a big fat spotlight on all of them. What is up, everybody? Chaos here. Welcome to the page. Today, we go over the worst guns in Warzone 2 right now. Keep in mind, it's all subject to change, and it will change thanks to the sheer number of updates Warzone 2 will be receiving moving forward. But until those updates come out, you may want to steer clear of these guns. Drop a like. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Let me know what you think of the new game. And we start off with the Bryson 800. Now, the shotguns in MW2 have gotten some very, very bad reviews since launch, and as you've probably expected, the Warzone versions aren't much better. In standard multiplayer, most of the shotties are extremely inconsistent, not very versatile at all, so naturally, when you bring a weapon like that to a game mode where the time to kill is much longer and the engagements usually happen at longer ranges, you can see why a weapon like this isn't very good. The Bryson is a pump-action shotgun that resembles classic shotties like the W1200, the trench gun, but it behaves more like the god-awful Model 680 from the last Infinity War game. And I know, there's going to be people in the comments, the Model 680 was good, Jimmy just doesn't like pump shotguns. I get it. Now, in multiplayer, it's not very good. In Warzone, it's even worse somehow. I mean, when's the last time you actually threw this thing on your custom class? I want you guys to be honest with me and let me know. Before we move on, this video is probably going up around Black Friday-esque time. The link at the top of the description is the Chaos Comic Store. Go check it out. If you collect Funkos, action figures, I mean, we even have Halo Funkos out there, comic books. We have it all. And you can use code Black Friday until Sunday night at midnight to get 35% off everything, even the discounted items. 35% off top of that. You guys make sure to check it out. At number 9, the Cast-Off 545. Now, the Cast-Off family is very popular, largely thanks to the 7.62 and the 7.4U versions, but the 545 is widely seen as one of the worst rifles in the game. And I agree. It fires quicker than its brothers. It maintains pretty solid accuracy, but that damage, man, it is low, and it's a little strange for an AR. It has to be one of the most accurate guns in the entire franchise, assuming you kit it out properly, but the time to kill, it's a ghost. The damage is so low and the handling speeds are so mediocre, it's hard to think of a scenario where you would actually want to use this, especially in a sandbox like Warzone. The fire rate may be decent, and the accuracy is good, but when you're shooting marshmallows at people, those things don't matter. Now, this isn't a rifle like the Ram 7 or the M13, where the low damage is offset by that great rate of fire and high headshot multipliers. The Cast-Off is a pea shooter through and through. It is. It's in the body of an AK-47, but it's not very good, especially in Warzone where everyone's health is increased from base multiplayer. The number of hit markers you get with this gun can be very, very frustrating. Most players, they're avoiding it altogether until it gets a buff. At number 8, can someone tell me why Infinity Ward insisted on changing the names of every classic gun in the game? We have the Miniback. Now, it's the new name for the Bison SMG, and despite being pretty mediocre in the previous Modern Warfare game, IW seemingly didn't want to fix any of the issues. It has a solid rate of fire, big default mag, but it doesn't have anything else going for it. The damage, the range, those departments are empty. It's certainly a spray and pray weapon, but if you're looking for something that's going to delete people quickly, this isn't it. Honestly, I don't know what the point of the gun is. It doesn't kill quickly up close, it doesn't have good range values for mid-range, and it obviously isn't any good at long range, so why would you carry it? When weapons like the MP5, the AK-74U, they're sitting right there waiting to be picked up. Why would you pick this thing up? I don't think most people would right now. At number 7, the SO14. Now, the battle rifle category has been hit or miss. Some people in the community swear they're underrated. Most Warzone players are avoiding them entirely, and the SO14 is a shining example of that. This is the new version of the classic M14 rifle. It fires pretty high caliber rounds in semi-automatic form, but if you're playing Warzone, you probably know that semi-auto weapons in the game are really hit or miss. Unless you're talking about the old school DMR-14 or the Origin 12, most people have avoided semi-auto weapons altogether in Warzone because of how much harder they are to use than the rest of the guns at your disposal. Think about it for a second. Why would you use a semi-auto rifle that kills somewhat quickly when you could just use a full-auto rifle that's easier to aim, easier to track with, and kills in roughly the same amount of time? Maybe the battle rifles will catch on after a few patches, but most people, they're skipping right over them right now, and I get it. They're just not a good weapon class for large-scale battle royale games like Warzone right now. In a game like that, you need something a little more versatile and a bit easier to use on the fly. At number 6, the Lockwood 300. Double-barrel shotty has actually been growing a bit of a fan club in standard Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer, but the same can't be said about Warzone's version just yet. It does feature extremely high damage, of course, but the very low ammo capacity makes it really hard to use consistently, and since Warzone features mostly mid to long-range combat, a weapon like this just doesn't get the service time. In standard multiplayer, it's fun to goof around with, and it's actually pretty viable because you can stick to the shadows and make sure you keep targets within your effective range. In Warzone, the vast majority of enemies you encounter are going to be way out of range for a shotgun like this, and since you only get 2 shots before needing to reload, you're going to be out of luck. I mean, I guess if you keep it in your back pocket as a secondary, you can get some use out of it, but at that point, just take an SMG. I mean, seriously, if you want a good close-range gun in your back pocket, you should probably bring something a little more versatile than a shotgun that can be fired twice before locking you into this painfully long reload animation. If the damage or range were higher, maybe it's a different story. But the Warzone version of the Lockwood, it's not doing it for me right now. So we'll see. Now we get into the top 5. The MX-9. This SMG hasn't been making very many people happy since Modern Warfare 2 launched. It's essentially the Modern Warfare 2019 version of the AUG. But it has all the good traits sucked out of it, and it copied the name from another SMG in Black Ops 4, which I'm assuming was done as a practical joke just to confuse future COD YouTubers. The 2019 AUG SMG was actually good. It had a wide array of attachments you could use to fine-tune it to your playstyle, but the MX-9, it doesn't have any of that. It's slow, it's clunky, it's bouncy, and the attachment variety is weirdly restrictive, meaning there isn't really much you can do to make it better. In standard multiplayer, it's not good. In Warzone 2, it's not good. It really isn't. It's being called one of the worst SMGs in COD history by some players right now. I'm struggling to disagree, especially in Warzone. With the awful ballistics and the mediocre time to kill, right now it's a battle royale liability. At number 4, the TAC-56. Once again, a new name for the classic SCAR assault rifle, and if you know your COD history, you know this gun has been all over the place. The older versions, like in Black Ops 2 and Modern Warfare 3, were great, but the newer ones, like Infinity Ward's last game, not as much. The TAC still has some of the same problems as Modern Warfare's version, and that goes for Warzone as well. The damage per shot, it's nice, but the recoil is really hefty and the handling is a bit clunky. The ammo capacity is problematic, and the fire rate's too low to give you a competitive time to kill. Now, the damage per shot is high, yes, but it's not high enough to offset the relatively low fire rate, meaning it's still a very slow killing rifle despite having high damage per shot, which honestly, that's frustrating. The Modern Warfare 2 version of the TAC is low tier, but the Warzone version, it's even lower. It is, especially because of the addition of armor plates. I mean, plus the bullet velocity leaves a lot to be desired, which makes it really hard to use at range since you have to lead your shots. The TAC is in desperate need of a buff in Warzone. We'll see. At number 3, let's stick with it. The TAC-M. The marksman rifle, that's a bit of a grind to unlock, and frankly, I don't think it's worth it right now. There are worse guns out there, and putting it at number 3 may be a little harsh, but I don't understand what the gun is supposed to do for us in a Warzone setting. It's totally possible that people just need to experiment with the gun a little more, but it's also totally possible that it's no good and it isn't versatile or powerful enough to justify being brought into Warzone by a serious player. This marksman rifle features decent damage, decent handling. There's a few builds that will suit you in multiplayer, but when it comes to Warzone, it seems like an awkward weapon to use. It requires a lot of precision, a lot of practice, and consistency in order to be viable. Even then, there's lots of other guns that do the exact same thing much better. It isn't worth your time, and unless there's some updates or maybe the community starts messing around with more experimental builds, I don't see this one catching on. At number 2, the Joker. The Javelin is one of the most iconic launchers in COD history. In the classic COD titles, it was devastating. Instead of being a straight shot to the target, the Javelin fires its rocket straight up in the air, plows down on the enemy, and it has this massive explosion, making it relatively hard to use but extremely strong if it manages to make contact. In the classic Modern Warfare games, it was intimidating. But in the rebooted universe, Infinity Ward kind of killed the appeal. It's now called the Joker, and it handles somewhat like the launcher, but the projectile speed is slow. The rocket takes forever to hit the target, sometimes upward of 10 seconds, meaning it's one of the hardest weapons in the game to actually make contact with. Now, the explosion may be lethal, and the blast radius is huge, but by the time it comes down, the enemy is gone. For vehicles, it's pretty good, but for actual combat with enemy players, it's borderline useless unless the target is really unaware. And at number 1 today, the M16, the legendary weapon in Call of Duty, especially within the Modern Warfare sub-series. The COD 4 version, one of the most busted weapons in COD history. It paved the way for other burst rifles throughout the franchise, but if there's one thing we all know about the M16, It's very inconsistent from game to game. For every COD 4, there's a Modern Warfare 2 version, and this rifle just doesn't do it when you throw it in Warzone. 3-round burst features extremely inconsistent damage, a long burst delay, handling traits make it really difficult to use. The whole appeal of burst is the ability to instantly delete someone, but Warzone 2, it just can't do that, even if you hit all 3 of your shots. There's a very low chance your target drops unless you somehow manage to get them in the head 3 times. If you don't instantly kill your target, they're going to turn around, return fire before you can get another burst out, and since there's little room for air with a gun like this, it's a liability. I love the M16, I love the legacy in the franchise, but the Warzone 2 version is awful, and I have no problem calling it the worst gun in the game. With the sheer number of people demanding buffs to the rifle, I think it will be adjusted soon. There you have it. That is my list for the worst Warzone 2 guns right now. Let me know if you agree or disagree, and I'll see you soon.